The year was 2147, and Earth was no longer the vibrant blue-green marble it had once been. Decades of environmental neglect had culminated in the collapse of the ozone layer, exposing the planet's surface to unrelenting ultraviolet radiation. Humanity, faced with an extinction-level crisis, turned to the only solution that could ensure its survival: the domes. Spanning miles and crafted from an alloy of graphene and UV-resistant polymers, the domes were marvels of engineering. They encased entire cities, shielding their inhabitants from the deadly rays that now scorched the earth. Beneath these translucent shells, life persevered, albeit in a form radically different from what had come before. The last glimmers of daylight. Inside Dome 17, a city known as Solace, 17-year-old Cale Evers wandered through the simulated park. Holographic birds chirped in the artificial trees, and a soft breeze, courtesy of the dome's climate systems, ruffled his hair. Yet no matter how advanced the technology, there was no escaping the feeling that something fundamental was missing. "Do you ever wonder what it was like?" Cale asked, turning to his best friend, Mira. She was perched on a bench, sketching a scene from the history books. A beach with waves sparkling under a sunlit sky. "All the time," Mira replied without looking up. "My grandmother used to tell me stories about how the sunlight felt warm on your skin. Not like the filtered light we have now. It's hard to imagine." Kyle sat beside her, gazing at the artificial sky projected onto the dome's ceiling. It mimicked the shifting hues of a natural sunset, but he knew it was nothing more than an illusion. A fragile balanced life within the domes was a delicate equilibrium. Resources were tightly controlled, and every citizen had a role to play. Hydroponic farms provided food, vertical forests recycled air, and solar collectors on the dome's exterior harnessed energy while shielding the city below. Despite these innovations, cracks were beginning to show. Population pressures strained resources, and there were whispers of resistance movements calling for humanity to reclaim the surface. They argued that life under the domes was not living but merely surviving. Kyle's father, a scientist working in the Environmental Restoration Division, was among those trying to make surface life possible again. For years he had worked on a project to engineer genetically modified plants capable of producing ozone. Success had been elusive, but a recent breakthrough offered a glimmer of hope. The experiment one evening, Kyle found his father hunched over a lab table in their dome-side apartment. Vials of glowing green liquid lined the shelves, and a holographic display showed a model of Earth with tiny patches of restored ozone. "Is it true?" Cale asked, his voice tinged with awe. "Have you really found a way to fix the ozone?" His father looked up, exhaustion etched into his face. "We're close. The plants we've engineered can survive the UV radiation and produce ozone, but deploying them is another matter. The surface is too hostile for large-scale planting without protection." Kyle's mind raced. What if we created smaller domes to protect the plants until they can spread on their own? His father's eyes lit up. That could work. A network of micro-domes could shield the initial growth zones. Kyle, that's brilliant. The reclamation. The idea quickly gained traction among the scientific community. Within months, the first micro-domes were deployed, housing the genetically engineered plants. Each dome was a beacon of hope, glowing softly against the desolate landscape. Teams of volunteers ventured onto the surface in protective suits, tending to the plants and expanding the network of micro-domes. Kyle and Mira joined the effort, their initial fear giving way to determination. They worked side by side, planting seeds that would one day restore the skies. Years passed, and the patches of ozone began to merge. The first rays of unfiltered sunlight broke through the thinning UV barrier, illuminating the ground with a warmth most had never experienced. The domes that had once been humanity's prisons became their sanctuaries as they worked to heal their wounded planet. A new dawn. By the time Kyle turned 30, the first dome was dismantled. Humanity stepped onto the rejuvenated Earth, shielded once more by the protective embrace of the ozone layer. The journey had been long and fraught with challenges, but it had also united them in a way nothing else could. Standing under the open sky for the first time, Kyle and Mira watched as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the world in shades of gold and crimson. It was a sunset they could finally call their own. "Do you think we've earned this?" Mira asked softly. Kyle smiled, his eyes reflecting the light of the setting sun. "Not yet, but we will."